wearing my Clemson ACC champion sweatshirt in honor of
I'm wearing my Clemson shirt right now.
In honor of QB4 Trevor Lawrence.
Welcome to another episode of Boom or Bust, the draft show. Max Chadwick alongside PJ Clark, Tate, Sigworth, and Nick Merriam. So we said that we were done with scouting reports, and a lot of you were kind of upset by that. The reason is that there's less than 3 months until the draft, guys, and we have a lot more players we want to cover. So we're going to run through the entire position of quarterback, our top 10 quarterbacks in the 2021 draft, and break them down, kind of like a quicker version of just a big scouting report. So, of course, be sure to follow our Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Boom or Bust Draft. YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts. Launch our website. We're down below. Check that out in the link below. And please like and subscribe to the channel. Comment any questions you have on our mailbag, or you can comment on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok, or email us at boomerbustdraft@gmail.com. And, of course, please support us, because support for us is brought to you by that right there, Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped, trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. Join the movement for all your below-the-waist grooming needs. 2,004 men worldwide, excuse me. To get yours, please go to manscaped.com. Use the promo code BOOM or BUST. That's BOOM or BUST. No spaces, all caps, 20% off your purchase, and free shipping. So, guys, let's dive into our top 10 quarterbacks, which you'll see next week on our Big Board 2.0. So at number 10 is the winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history, Ian Book. And PJ, he's your guy. So what do you think about Ian Book?
Okay, so Ian Book stinks. But
oh, God.
I think you're going to see a recurring theme here in this video that almost all of these guys outside of probably the four best quarterbacks in the history of the NFL draft as the top four, they're all terrible in their own special ways. Ian Book is no exception. He wins a lot. He's undersized. I was honestly impressed with him at the Senior Bowl. I thought he played really well. His team of him, Felipe Franks, and Sam Ehlinger, to me, he was the best guy there, which was a plus. He's undersized. I think he's got to make better decisions, quicker decisions, not a great decision maker. I think he's a good runner, which will bring you value. I think Ian Book is going to have a very nice career as a career backup somewhere, but he'll get a shot because, as you said, he's a winner. He's the winningest quarterback in the history of Notre Dame. So I guess that matters for something. Somebody will draft him. He's a character guy. It'll work out.
Yeah, I don't think he's number 10. He's QB8 on my big board. I don't think he stinks the whole way. I think, he has his issues. He relies too much on extending plays. He doesn't have maybe the arm strength that other people do. But he's a very good leader. I think he's Baker Mayfield with a worse arm. I think you hear that a lot. He needs a good system in the NFL to succeed. He's not, a starting quarterback by any stretch of the imagination in year one, but maybe, a couple of years down the line, a low-end starter could be in the cards for Ian Book.
Yeah, probably a check down king at the next level. One of those guys will end up being a backup. Kyle Allen-like. He'll fit into a West Coast system, which can technically translate to most places. So wherever he'll go, he'll be a backup, and he'll fit whatever system you want. And just because he's kind of malleable like that, he's going to be coveted in that backup QB day 3 pick slot that teams look for.
Yeah, you hit it. I mean, QB 13 for me, I'm lower than you guys. Day 3, great on him for me too, or even UDFA. 30 wins, most in Notre Dame history, like we said, and also they've had quarterbacks. Joe Montana, Brady Quinn, Joe Theismann. Those are just some of the names that went through. Brady Quinn was a great college quarterback.
Here comes Max. Well, he's a legendary Cleveland Brown, but here comes the full book is Joe Montana.
Who else are we missing here? Let's just get them all
Jimmy
out.
Clausen.
Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
good job. Sean Kaiser, right.
Browns legend.
He does a good job throwing on the move. He's pretty mobile. Not a strong arm, though. A lot of it was just chucking up 50-50 balls to his receivers. Undersized, you guys hit it. Only 6 feet tall, 206 pounds. To me, he's a lot like my guy, which you could play the TikTok, Trace McSorley. Great college quarterback, very mobile, but undersized, doesn't have an NFL arm. I see Book having a similar career arc where he's like a career backup in the NFL. So, Tate, let's go over to our number 9 quarterback, and that's Texas A&M's Kellen Mond, who, after 4 years of starting, we still have no idea whether or not he's good. So what do you make of Kellen Mond?
I don't really know what to make of Kellen Mond. That's kind of the whole bit. He's my QB 11. I think he has a nice zip on his ball. You know, that's a nice thing. He's battle tested. He's seen a lot of really good defenses in the SEC. He's a good athlete, but he just has this really weird motion that I just can't get behind. He has this high elbow thing where he keeps his elbows like, it just looks weird. I think he's also kind of like a simple one-read quarterback. And he's never made a jump, really. In all of his years of starting, he's never really made a jump into, like, the player that a lot of people maybe think he can become. So, again, I mean, I think it's just like Ian Book. He's just going to be a backup in the NFL.
Senior Bowl MVP, Kellen Mond. I feel like
True.
Looked actually pretty good in the game. Looked better than Jamie Newman did in the actual game itself, which I thought was interesting. He's not good, but Kellen Mond, is going to have packages at the next level. He's a big dude. He's an athlete. I could totally see some team drafting him as a developmental backup and then like putting in a QB power package for like within the 5-yard line. He's gonna be able to get those yards. He's a big dude. He's not fast. As I said at the beginning of the year in our QB4 video, he kind of looks like he's in molasses at all times. He does nothing quickly, and he has no sense of urgency whatsoever. But he's a developmental guy. He as Tate said, arm strength is fairly decent, and I do think there's potential for running packages in there. So that's my Kellen Mond take. He's not any good.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I think he'll go earlier day 3, maybe a high ceiling is a low 4. I think he's a 5th-round guy. He's got a skinny build. It's kind of weird. Like, you know, he does look awkward in the pocket. He's not really super mobile, even though in college he may have picked up some rushing yards. But he protects the ball well. I think there are some progression things you'd like to see. At times he's manipulated safeties, which is something you don't see a lot of guys do. He gets the ball out quick, which I think is actually something you really look for with backup QBs. You just don't want a guy who's going to stand back there and be indecisive. And because of that, I kind of have him. I might have him higher than all you guys do. Actually, I don't. You guys,
oh boy.
Does anyone else have him QB8? I have him 8. But
no, I don't.
You know, he's accurate, but he doesn't have like a talented arm. He just kind of fits balls in. He's just fine. Like he's never going to be anything great, but he gets the job done. He gets the ball out quick, and I don't think he's going to be a disaster as a backup QB.
Yeah, QB9 for me, 4th-round grade on him right now. He's experienced in a pro-style offense run by Jimbo Fisher, 4-year start in the SEC. Like Book, like we just hit on, he's a good passer rolling outside of the pocket. But we've always waited for that next step. Like every year, it seems like it's like, okay, this is a Kellen Mond breakout year. And like I mentioned, like he's 4 years starting, and we still have no idea whether or not he can take that next step. He makes some outstanding throws, but never does it consistently. Accuracy, arm talent, I think are both below average, if not average. And again, a career backup who can start a game every now and then for you. So number 8 on our board is Davis Mills from Stanford. Nick, what do you make of the former 5-star recruit?
So he's got good size. He's got some arm strength. He can throw the ball downfield. He's a highly graded passer throwing the ball down the field due to according to PFF this season. My issue with him is I don't think he's much of a rhythm thrower. I think he really hesitates a lot of the time. He does go through his progressions, but he'll usually come back to guys to throw the ball. And I think a lot of the times you see him just kind of chucking the ball around. And it can be successful in the Pac-12, which has been a kind of down conference recently. But I think he needed another year. I think really coming out now was to put it not mildly, stupid. He's a guy who needs some development. And, I mean, all right, he could be your backup QB. But, again, when you're looking for backups, you want guys who are just going to kind of get the ball out, not throw interceptions, not take sacks. This is a guy that I think is, if at his best, going to be throwing a good amount of interceptions because he's going to be taking wild shots down the field.
If I had to place my bet on a backup quarterback coming out of this grouping right here, and the guys we'll get to at the end of the best of the rest, I'd bet on Davis Mills. He's my highest. He's my QB 8. Max, you mentioned it, pedigree, 5-star, best quarterback prospect in the class of 2017. I think that matters. That gets people drafted, whether we want to talk about it or not. 5-star gets you drafted.
Shea Patterson.
Shea Patterson did not get drafted because I think we had a large enough sample size to just know that Shea Patterson was bad. We don't have with Davis Mills. Only 2 years as a starter. He's been injured on and off. It was a really interesting, weird kind of career for him. But another pro-style offense with David Shaw, who's a good quarterbacks coach. Big dude, 6'4", like total potential. He's got absolutely no mobility, but he takes shots down the field, which might not be what you want out of a backup quarterback, but as a project, I'll take my chances.
Yeah, I think that's fair. As a project, if you can kind of correct him and make him a better short-range passer. I don't know. They hit on it. Not very athletic, kind of immobile, but he has a really nice strong arm, really nice zip. I like watching him throw the ball deep because he just throws it with a speed and an accuracy that is just fun to watch. And he's also a big boy. He's my QB 9 currently.
Ever been described as fun to watch before? I think you might have just debuted that.
What, the fun to watch on Davis Mills?
I think you might have just
he throws the ball deep, very nice. I mean, it's just fun to watch. But yeah, I don't know. He's definitely a project, just like the last two guys we've mentioned.
Yeah, so I think the top 7 we're going to get into are pretty – we all have the same top 7 in different orders, but I think after that, Davis Mills is probably the guy I would take a chance on. He's number 8 quarterback, 4th-round grade on him. Like you guys mentioned, number 1 quarterback recruit coming out of high school over guys like Tua, Jake Fromm, and you can see why. He's
Both
the pro.
bad. Both bad.
Why for Fromm? Because I don't need really eyes to know that.
Well, the 2017 class had Tua and basically
Fraud.
nobody else. So you want to say Tate Martell, and I'll say that too.
Oh,
I think we should, Nathan.
Prototypical pocket passer traits, good size, like you guys mentioned, 6'4", 225, good arm strength. He was a quick decision maker in a pro-style offense. But again, like Kellen Mond, you never really saw him take that next step. He has fewer than 500 dropbacks in his career. I would love for him to come back and play next year, or even get an invite to the Senior Bowl. That was one of the most head-scratching non-invites, I thought, because he worked out there.
Max, we have to have Franks, Max.
I know. We have to have Felipe Franks. I understand
he's
that.
6'6".
I know, but listen, I mean, Davis Mills, I thought, could have really improved his stock in the Senior Bowl and he didn't get an invite. He actually worked out for scouts there. But like I said, pure pocket passer, no mobility at all. He won't like plays outside of the pocket. Needs his feet set to make the throws, and the game's kind of trending away from that. Has the tools, but not much experience. He could surprise us all down the line and get a shot as a starter, but he isn't even close there yet. So number 7 on our quarterbacks list is Jamie Newman from Wake Forest, who was going to play at Georgia, but he didn't. He didn't. PJ, what do you got on Jamie Newman?
I'm gonna give it to Nick because Nick kind of ruined his life. There was no player that had a more important week in Mobile, Alabama, 3 weeks ago at this point, than Jamie Newman. I don't know if it went well. I'd actually venture to believe it didn't, which is kind of a shame. Jamie Newman needed to play well at the Senior Bowl, and I really don't think he did, especially in the game. That offensive line for his team was absolutely terrible and did not give him a shot, but he struggled over the middle of the field. We didn't get to see him run much because he was just running for his life. But I'm still kind of in on Jamie Newman. I think that he'll be okay. I think he's a tier above everybody else we just mentioned, but I also think he's in a tier of his own now, under the 6 above him. Interesting. A guy I wish we could have seen play this year. But based on the 2020 or the 2019 tape, listen, it wasn't bad. He did have Sage Surratt, who was a 1,000-yard receiver. He's an athlete. I think he's like, I don't know, the guy, when I always watch him, I go back to like Jared Goff. What if Jared Goff had legs? And I think he's a worse passer than Jared Goff, obviously. But I think that's like pretty much the reasonable expectation of like, he's never going to be too good. But I do think you could feasibly win with him at some point.
Yeah. You saw a lot of Ross. He hasn't played in a game in a year. But the things you saw, he had very natural arm strength. If you just watched, him throw the ball, if like the camera was just on him, you didn't see where it went, I think, it would have gone gen well. Like, he looked natural as a quarterback in the pocket. And he can get outside the pocket and move. He's a pretty good athlete. But it's just inconsistent accuracy you saw in Alabama that, maybe could just be rust. Maybe you got to get him in a training camp and get him a year as a backup and kind of see where it goes. But, I think down the line, yeah, he could probably start for an NFL team.
Yeah, he's got the size, arm strength, mobility, the stuff that you look for in QB prospects that can translate to being really successful at the NFL level. And early on in the Senior Bowl, after I wrote an article about him, because I was like, this guy's playing well. Because without pass rush, when you just lined him up and were like, throw the ball against coverage, he looked great. But then you threw him in these positions where he had no line in front of him and pass rushers. He did not look comfortable at all inside the pocket. It had been a while since he had played. Understandable, but he was stepping up too early. Sometimes he was backing up too much. And he just didn't look like he was ready to play NFL football at the Senior Bowl. So if someone can, get him back on track and playing the way he was 2 years ago and maybe go from there, I don't know. But the measurables are what matters. These type of guys, you want athletic guys at quarterback. And you could make the argument outside of Trey Lance that Jamie Newman, in terms of arm strength, mobility, and physical tools, has that athletic ability that no one else in this class does. But he hasn't shown it on the field yet, other than some good sample sizes with deep ball throwing 2 years ago at Wake Forest, which didn't translate to all of his throws. He's a project, and I think someone will take a chance on him in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, I actually have him at top 50 on my board. Might go a little bit lower before we drop the board, but top QB7 for me right now. Look, him opting out was a
What
big
did he
blow.
say?
I said maybe top 50. I'm still going through it, but I like Jamie Newman, man. I was excited to see what he could do in a pro-style offense at Georgia in the SEC instead of the RPO heavy one he ran at Wake Forest. That doesn't really translate. You kind of saw it. You kind of saw it. What?
Hive happened.
Yeah, which is true. But next year will be pretty fun with JT Daniels. But Jamie Newman, like the Senior Bowl, I think was one, a factor of him not playing for a whole year. Two, a factor of this is the first time he played in a pro-style offense in his career, basically. So, and you saw, he wasn't ready. So yeah, this guy is a project. I'm not going to deny that. Good mobility though, good arm strength of 6'4", 230. Downfield accuracy I think is really good. He drops in a bucket really well. But he struggled when Sage Surratt was hurt. He opted out. He didn't look great in the Senior Bowl and played in a pretty college-y offense, which could hold teams off from taking him highly. I'd probably take a flyer mid to late 2nd round or early 3rd round because I think there is a shot.
So that's
a shot. Well, I'm right now top 50. I'm still going through, but there's a shot he becomes a starting caliber quarterback. Tate, let's go over to a guy that many people had in the 1st round going through this year. And that's Kyle Trask from Florida. What do you make of him?
Not much. Gonna keep it 100. Yeah, he's QB6. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, there are good things about him. He uses his brains. He's a smart quarterback. Because he's not a plus athlete, he has to rely on these other traits, I think, to succeed. He's accurate. He's a good thrower. But he's just not mobile. It's like Big Ben-esque, but not less like Big Ben. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work like Big Ben. I don't know how Big Ben worked with his mobility. And then also another thing I want to think about is, Dan Mullen, the simple concepts. He ran a lot of just kind of simple concept like levels and stuff that make the reads for Trask kind of easy at Florida this year. And then also lack of starts, ? I put that down. It was his first full year as a starter. He didn't start in high school. These are things to pay attention to, especially when we're looking at guys like, Davis Mills, who only played 13 games in his whole college career. So, yeah, I don't know. 2nd round pick, grade currently. Some team's going to take him there. It's going to probably not go great, and he's probably just going to be a backup.
If you're drafting Kyle Trask to be your starting quarterback, I have some bad news. I don't really think anybody's going to want that. I do think he's better than Jamie Newman, but my problem with Kyle Trask is I don't think any quarterback just enjoys throwing more balls that could be intercepted than Kyle Trask. He's a huge fan of just either throwing 50-50 balls, which works when you have Trey Grimes and Kyle Pitts. That's fine. Taking deep shots 50-50 when you have those two, great. That's not going to happen in the NFL. Sorry, you're not going to have those two, and they're not going to be better than the quarterbacks they're facing, even if you do have those. The guy struggles with even the simplest reads, which is it's not great, especially in the LSU game, and then he got exposed in the bowl game against Oklahoma when nobody was playing with him. So yeah, he benefited from having 2 of the probably 4 best skill position players in the country in Kadarius Toney and Kyle Pitts, as anybody would. He's lights out though between 0 and 15 yards. He really is elite in short to the beginning of intermediate, which is a plus. I don't think he has an entirely strong arm. I think he's smart. I think his pocket awareness is actually pretty decent. He can't move, as Tate said. But he's a big dude. I think New Orleans, another team with I keep coming back to with a quarterback who hasn't been able to throw the ball down the field. Listen, he's not better than Jameis, but if you wanted to run the little rinky-dink Drew Brees offense, I think you could get away with it maybe, but I wouldn't be confident in doing so.
Yeah, another big guy, immobile, kind of. I think his arm talent's pretty good, actually. I do think he has a strong arm at times, but I don't think he uses it that often. I think there are a lot of touch passes in that offense and a lot of short passes. He just didn't have to rocket it as much. Not a mobile guy. His size is what's going to matter for keeping him up in the pocket, right? It was hard to tackle Big Ben. That's how he stayed in the league. It's going to be hard to take down a 240-pound chonk Thanos of Kyle Trask. But in terms of decision-making, that's a PJ-ism, if you're wondering. He's did a good job in a Florida offense that, to be honest with you, couldn't run as well with a guy like Emory Jones, who I believe is is he like a 5-star? I don't know.
He's a high 4-star. Yeah, he's a high
4-star. So, I mean, it's impressive for a guy who didn't play in high school to come out, even with all those great weapons around him, which is the same thing we're talking about with Mac Jones, to go up against SEC competition, make good reads over and over again. He did turn the ball over some, made some questionable throws at times downfield. But again, this is another project guy. He's not your starter if you're bringing this type of guy on. He has traits that other guys at quarterback don't have. He's going to work in certain offenses. The Saints, I think, would be a great fit. I think you're right about that, PJ. But the size, the arm, the ability to make throws downfield, whether you have great weapons or not, it's just hard to find guys like that.
Yeah, for me, QB6, top 40 player, took a massive leap this year en route to being a Heisman finalist. Looked like a different quarterback altogether. And the fact that he did it in his second year starting since his sophomore year of high school, that is very encouraging, because you can ask yourself, like, okay, what if there's another big leap like this? Because this guy is not very experienced, even dating back to high school. De'Aaron King started over him in high school. So this is a guy who doesn't have that much experience. So maybe, he's just getting started. So it is encouraging. Able to throw with touch this year, which is something he really didn't do last year. Just kind of rifled it in last year. Stands tall in the pocket in face of pressure. You guys mentioned it, Ben Roethlisberger-esque size. He's actually the exact same size at 6'5", 240. Statue, though, in the pocket, not mobile at all. Also, you guys hit on it, too, throwing to loaded receiving core. Kyle Pitts, Kadarius Toney. When they didn't play in that bowl game against Oklahoma, he was awful. He was awful. Trey Grimes is fine. But Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney going in the first round, he was rough in that Oklahoma game, the bowl game. I think 3 first quarter interceptions, I think it was. Again, not really any high-end trades, but the fact that he made like a Joe Burrow similar type leap from just another guy to all of a sudden dominating.
Yeah, better numbers.
Yeah, in the SEC, he could get drafted. He should get drafted on day 2, second round, and could be a starter down the line, but don't plan on that anytime soon. Number 5 quarterback, Mac Jones from Alabama. Nick, what do you think about him?
Another guy. Here we go. We just talked about it.
Team member.
Said Nick. Sorry, my bad.
No, I know, but I was just shouting you out because he's your quarterback next year at this rate.
Is he? I saw something about that earlier. Did they say something about that?
No, I'm just making fun of you.
Somebody in Washington was talking. I don't know. Whatever. Twitter is just a whole thing, and I can't keep up with it. Yeah, he's another guy that just has great weapons in college, and it matters, but not to the degree that I think people make it out to. Just because quarterback is the most important position, and if you're playing well, you get that credit because you're directing everything in that offense. Really, some unbelievable touch passes from him downfield as the year went on. He really plays with nice anticipation. He's another guy, though, in terms of the pocket. He doesn't have the size of Kyle Trask, and I don't really think he has mobility either. He might be a little more than Trask, but I mean, we saw him run a couple of times in the national title, and it just doesn't look good. Like he's not going to be taking off for 12 yards at a time like Patrick Mahomes was in the Super Bowl when guys are playing off ball and just trying to cover downfield. So you need an offense where you have good weapons, and he can be like that kind of Kirk Cousins type facilitator guy who can make the big throws downfield and also intermediately and not turn the ball over, effectively just be somebody you don't want to worry about at the quarterback in the next level. He's never going to push you over the top, though. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers, but it's still a valuable piece to have a quarterback that's middling and doesn't lose you games because they're throwing the ball to the other team every other play.
I don't know what to make of Mac Jones, and I haven't. Somebody's going to take him in the first round. I wouldn't. I think that there is a chance, like Nick just said there. It's like Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr. These guys are like good, but you can always do better. I even think like if Mac Jones turns into Colt McCoy and has like a 15-year career where he's been a starter and like is a good backup and just comes in and out and in and out, if you give him a couple more weeks with the ones, like maybe he'll be okay. Like, I think that's what we're looking at for Mac Jones. Would I take that guy in the first round? Absolutely not. But he's shown great touch this year. I listen, it's really easy to not lose games at Alabama, but he didn't do that, which I think means something. And I think it's another thing, much like Trask, where he persevered through Tua and Hurts and stayed the course and didn't transfer and got rewarded for it. He was impressive this year for sure. I just have so many questions about how good he is when he's out of that situation. He's not a franchise quarterback. At the very least, I think at his pinnacle, you're always going to be able to upgrade, much like a Kirk Cousins. So it's like, at that point, maybe just wait for next year. It depends on the team.
Yeah, I don't think Mac Jones is a groundbreaking franchise quarterback. I don't think anybody's really making him out to be. He's probably going to go late first, early second at the latest. The thing I really like about him is he completed 77% of his passes this year. I mean, you can be like, well, he had good, wide receivers, whatnot, but the quarterback at some point, does need to make accurate passes, and he did that a lot. Didn't really turn the ball over either. I mean, it's just going to be about what team, what system is he in, who is around him, and that's going to spell how good he is. I think PJ's pretty dead on with the Colt McCoy kind of like, he starts some games here and there. He probably might back up for a while, but I think Mac Jones will probably have a very long NFL career.
Long NFL career.
He's a smart guy. He gets it. He doesn't, just rely on his running. So it's not like in 5. I fully expect Mac Jones to just be around the NFL for a long time.
Yeah, QB5 for me, top 25 player, was a Davey O'Brien Award winner this year as the nation's best quarterback. He mastered that Alabama offense, man. And I'm not saying he's a better prospect because I don't think it's even close. But he played better in that Alabama offense than Tua ever looked in an Alabama offense. He had excellent timing with his receivers all year, incredibly accurate underneath. But the fact that you guys hit it, the Alabama offense so loaded, what was such a big negative. Only 44 passes from PFF. Only 44 passes into tight windows all year out of his 311 completions. So this guy was throwing a wide open receivers almost every play. The arm strength, not good. He often underthrew his receivers downfield, but they made up for it because of how good they were. Not mobile at all, pure pocket passer again. Only one elite year, too. Does have some translatable skills to the NFL, though. Should be drafted in the first round, I think. Give it a shot. Just don't expect to ever see Alabama Mac Jones ever again. I see a lot of Kirk Cousins in him. He could be a decent starter in the NFL, but I don't know about much more than that. So the next 4 guys we all did videos on, so we can kind of run through these pretty quickly. But I want to start with Nick on Trey Lance because this is before Nick actually joined the show. So Nick, what were your thoughts on Trey Lance?
Unreal highlight reel. Guys, just so much fun to watch.
Wet noodles.
Again, he's the type of guy who is a project, but to a degree we've seen it. It's the reason he's a project is that he's played at North Dakota State, and the competition level is lower, and he's on the best team in the country. It's the same thing with Mac Jones. The difference between him and Mac Jones, obviously, is physical tools, and honestly, he just was a better quarterback in the system he played in than Mac Jones was. We saw some unbelievable downfield throws. For my money, some of the difficulty of some of the downfield throws that Trey Lance made and the touch on those throws are some of the best throws from any of the quarterbacks we've seen in this draft. Now you need to replicate that in an offense in the NFL where everything is quicker, the windows are tighter, and you've got bigger guys defending you. And he had a lot of open windows in North Dakota State. It's no lie, everyone knows this. It's part of the reason why he threw 0 interceptions in his 2 years ago, which is unbelievable in its own right, even if you're throwing to wide open guys, because it means he didn't make a single mistake with your reads. But again, we saw him working on his throwing motion on the offseason because it was kind of a little iffy at times at North Dakota State. Hopefully that gets better. Either way, he has an unbelievable floor because as a runner, he has this kind of Cam Newton upside where he can run. He's got some speed to him, and he can run through guys. And so you're going to line him up, you're going to run QB power, and you're going to get yards with him that way until he figures out how to throw the ball, in which case he has unbelievable arm talent. He's a guy who navigates the pocket well because he can move. it's all projection for this guy, but if he works out and he continues to improve, he has that Josh Allen ceiling that you're looking for in a effectively blue chip quarterback prospect.
Trey Lance is the best quarterback in the world. Move on.
Well, I mean, that's just a horrible take.
So he's obviously not.
Man,
What?
if you think
You ranked him 4th, so no. Or
I
3rd.
just listen. I think he's got the highest ceiling of all these guys. I think he's the world beater.
I think it's fair. I think it's a fair take.
I think he's the world beater.
all right, well, if you thought Mac Jones and Alabama were overpowered against his opponents, wait till you see North Dakota State and Trey Lance. Every single player in North Dakota State's offense is better than the player they're lining up against, unequivocally, hands down. Trey Lance, he runs nice, like Nick said. He has a big arm. Yes, that's also true. If you thought Mac Jones guys were open, wait till you see Trey Lance tape, because, there's nobody within 40 yards of their guys. He's good. There's going to be a lot of work that you got to put in. The learning curve is going to be big to the NFL. I just have my doubts. He's coming against some wet noodles in college, and he played well. And now go do it in the NFL.
Is he top 10 for you, Tate, or no?
No, he's 11.
Okay. So he's 8. He's 8 for me, QB4. Tools, outstanding, man. Best mobility in this class by far, I think. Runs like a running back. Operate an RPO system, I think, really well. Arm strength, too. Really, really good. One of the strongest arms in this class. Accuracy is my biggest question, but he's a big boomer bust player. Roll credits. Take him to top 10. I think Dak is a really good comparison for him. So real quick, we did all of us did videos on these guys, the top 3. But really, really quick, Tate, what were your thoughts on Zach Wilson from BYU, our number 3 quarterback?
Yeah, I think Justin Fields is a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. I think it's a safer pick. But, I mean, he's he kind of plays like Mahomes. I'm not saying he is Mahomes. I'm not, Max Chadwick.
Oh, you are
but,
saying
he
he's
runs
Mahomes.
around. No. Got a big arm, accurate downfield. I mean, there's a lot of things to like, but obviously the level of competition is a thing to not like about Zach Wilson.
Level of competition. Only 1 year. Well, not only 1 year, but only 1 year as an elite starter, really. And he was great, but I have question marks about these guys who come from smaller schools. We have 1 year of effectively NFL tape on TV, and he's a guy who hasn't really played. Although he obviously has a system, he doesn't really play within it. He kind of just does whatever the heck he wants, rolls out of the pocket, throws dimes downfield, which is great. But the NFL, you gotta go through progressions, and I love him. I think he's great. I think he's a top 5 pick. I'm 4th on my board, but I do have Justin Fields higher just because I think he's a little more NFL ready. He's had more starts.
Again, same thing with Lance. Higher ceiling than Fields. I'll take my chances with the quarterback.
I agree. Higher ceiling than Fields. I think it's only slightly, though, and I think Fields much higher floor. 3rd overall on my board, number 3 quarterback. Of course, please check out the video if you want to learn more about Zach Wilson and what we think about him. Number 2 on the board, Justin Fields from Ohio State. Nick, real quick, what do you think about Fields?
Well, I think we undervalue the ability for a quarterback to run in the NFL. I think it opens up so much for the playbook, and I know you'd rather want to have a guy who can throw the ball well because, hey, if you can just throw the ball downfield and be great, you can win Super Bowls. But here's the thing. Not everyone can have an elite passing quarterback. It doesn't happen. So if you have a guy who's a pretty good passer and an elite runner, that's the second best thing. And I think Justin Fields is likely at least that. He could be an elite passer as well. The question will be about how that Ohio State system translates. I think he'll be fine. I think he was clearly better than Dwayne Haskins in that same system. And Haskins does not have the intangibles that Fields has. Fields is legitimately one of my favorite people in this draft. And I think you saw that with his grit against Clemson.
Justin Fields is very, very good and will be a good quarterback immediately, even if he's on the Jets. Finn.
Yeah, I mean, if he just speeds up his reads and takes less sacks, I think those are the only 2 things he really needs to work on. I have no real concerns about the Ohio State system because the Ohio State system they ran with Justin Fields is different than the Ohio State system they ran with all their other previous quarterbacks. Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be a very good NFL starter.
Yeah, number 2 overall, number 2 quarterback. I think he's Deshaun Watson, man. I think he's a really good runner, really, really talented passers who are underrated. I think both of them as passers, but they are really, really good, and they hold onto the ball for a long time too, which can take some bad sacks, but also make some great plays too. So Deshaun Watson comp. Finally, PJ, the guy that you thought you're going to have for basically the entire season.
That was just uncalled for. That was so mean, dude.
He slips through your fingertips.
What
do you think about what do you think about Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence is the most polished quarterback prospect in the history of football. Trevor Lawrence is going to be the number 1 overall pick, and I still hate the Urban Meyer thing. I think it's going to be an unmitigated disaster, and I'm sorry Trevor got caught up in it.
Yeah, if PJ thought Trey Lance was the best quarterback ever, wait till he watches Trevor Lawrence play football.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's 3-year starter. He's been excellent. He does NFL things. You know, what are you gonna? I do think we're overestimating maybe his ceiling a little bit. I think we did the same thing with Andrew Luck, but which is why Luck was never the best quarterback in the NFL. But which, you know what, if Trevor Lawrence is a number 6 best QB in the NFL and is immediately and is always that, look, the Jaguars aren't going to complain. So you take him number 1. You don't even think about it.
Yeah, he's got the highest floor, and I think he honestly close to the highest ceiling, if not the highest ceiling of this draft. You could literally do everything. So Jacksonville, take him and be happy for the next 15 years. So real quick, guys, I wanted to ask you, we covered the top 10 quarterbacks on our board, but obviously there's a few guys that didn't make it that are in our top 10s individually. So Tate, let's start with you. Who's the best quarterback that's not in this top 10 list?
Peyton Ramsey, Mike King. QB 10. Good poise, throws the accuracy and touch. I think he's a slept-on athlete. He's got arm strength, but I'm all in on the Peyton Ramsey train.
My guy is going to be Shane Buechele from SMU. I don't even know. High octane offense, just fun to watch. Shane Buechele. Go watch SMU and go wish that Reggie Roberson didn't tear his ACL and could be in this draft. But we'll see him more next year. Shane Buechele is fine. He's fun.
Love Roberson. My guy is Brady White. I think he's similar to Buechele. Both heavy RPO offenses. SMU more of an air raid type. They both kind of throw nice spirals. They don't really do complicated throws. They don't do complicated progressions. But I just think because the Memphis offense is a lot of motion, a lot of running back wide receiver hybrids, similar stuff that you're seeing to creative NFL offenses, he'll translate better. So that's why he's my 11.
Yes, my guy who's QB 10 for me, and I'm gonna, duck from all the tomatoes that are gonna hurl at me. Sam Ehlinger.
Terrible.
Oh no.
Sam Ehlinger,
no.
man. Listen, I'm not saying he's ever going to be a starter. He's a great college quarterback. Started for 4 years at Texas over Shane Buechele, by the way. He beat out your guy.
And then what happened?
Pocket presence. He's good. He's been good every year. Pocket presence is an issue. Doesn't have an NFL arm, but he can find a role in the league. He has decent accuracy. He'll be a career backup in the NFL. So that's our top 10 quarterbacks in this year's draft, and the best of the rest too. So please comment below what you think about this quarterback class. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and go to manscaped.com, man. Use the code BOOMERBUST, all caps, no spaces, to get 20% off your purchase and free shipping. So for PJ Clark, Tate Sigworth, and Nick Merriam, I'm Max Chadwick. Have a great night.